From the depths of the earth to glittering displays, the world of diamonds is constantly in flux.
It really is. Never stands still.
So today, we're cutting through some of that noise. We want to reveal the most important facets, of what's happening right now in the global diamond market. We've gathered, well, quite a fascinating collection of recent reports and articles. It spans industry news, financial analysis, even some compelling opinion pieces.
A real mix, yeah, from different angles.
And our mission, it's to give you, the learner, a clear, concise understanding of this glittering landscape.
Right.
Highlighting key trends, potential disruptions, some surprising connections.
Yeah.
Really, all without burying you under a mountain of information.
Keep it focused.
Exactly. It's a world with, I think, inherent allure, but also a surprising amount of complexity. So today we're diving deep.
Absolutely. And the sources we've looked at, they paint a picture of a really dynamic market, undergoing significant shifts really across the entire value chain.
The whole thing.
Pretty much. We'll be looking at everything from, say, disruptions in mining and evolving trade routes to pricing adjustments and the increasingly prominent role of lab-grown diamonds, LGDs.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting right at the source, literally. What's happening in diamond mining and supply? Sounds like some significant disruption there.
That's right, yeah. One of the more immediate impacts we're seeing reported is the shutdown of Koidu Ltd.
Koidu, that's Sierra Leone.
Yes, exactly. It was Sierra Leone's largest diamond mine. The closure apparently follows worker strikes back in December.
Ah, okay.
And has unfortunately led to over 1,000 layoffs, which is, significant in itself.
Wow. Yeah. And that's more than just a local issue, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. The ripple effect is already being felt.
How so?
Well, the reports highlight this will disrupt the global supply of rough diamonds, and that's particularly critical for, say, Indian traders.
Because they rely heavily on imports from Africa.
Precisely. That reliance often stems from, established trading relationships, specific quality requirements met by those African mines.
Right.
So making a sudden shift to other sources, it could be complex, maybe costly.
Are the reports suggesting how they might adapt? Looking elsewhere?
Some suggest they might explore increased sourcing from other African nations, perhaps, or maybe reevaluate their reliance on certain grades of diamonds. It's early days, though.
Okay, interesting. Then shifting focus a bit. Canada, another key player.
Yep.
Mountain Province Diamonds reported significant losses in Q1 2025.
That's right. They're attributing this to weaker prices, a drop in demand.
And what's fascinating here is that direct link again, isn't it? Reduced production in Canada also means less rough diamond availability. And this has downstream consequences, especially for the cutting and polishing centers in India.
Exactly. And it's not just about the volume either. Well, Canadian diamonds are known for certain characteristics, right? So a decline in their output can affect specific segments of the market that rely on those particular qualities.
Got it. So less coming out of the ground in Africa, less from Canada, and then you throw in the geopolitical stuff.
The Russian sanctions.
Yeah, the UK's escalating sanctions against the Russian diamond trade. Feels like a triple whammy for supply.
It does create a very complex situation. The UK isn't just targeting the trade itself.
No.
They're also considering seizing Russian-linked assets, which could include diamonds.
Really? Asset seizures?
That's what's being reported. If these measures intensify, you could see increased demand, logically, for rough diamonds from African and Canadian sources.
Right, filling the gap.
Which could shift import patterns for Indian buyers, maybe even lead to price increases.
Raises a big question, though, doesn't it? How quickly can these alternative supply chains actually adapt if there's a shortfall?
That's the million-dollar question, really. Supply chains aren't always that flexible overnight.
Okay, so with all these pressures on supply, it's interesting to see how the big players are reacting, like De Beers.
Yes. We're seeing reports about their pricing and inventory management.
What are they doing?
Well, several sources indicate that De Beers has been discreetly offering discounts on rough diamonds.
Discreetly? To select clients?
Apparently so. It suggests they're looking to move some excess inventory, probably amidst this falling overall demand we've talked about.
So, sort of a quiet sale?
You could see it that way, maybe a preemptive strategy to maintain market share, perhaps, with softer demand and, the rise of LGDs putting pressure on.
And that impacts more than just De Beers' bottom line, right?
Yeah.
These secret discounts, they can affect the global benchmarks.
Absolutely. The benchmarks for rough diamond pricing which, just for clarity, are like these widely accepted price guides for different categories of rough diamonds.
Used across the industry for deals.
Exactly. So these discounts directly impact Indian traders who are importing from De Beers, basing their costs on those benchmarks.
It's a delicate balance then, managing supply versus maintaining price stability. Is there any speculation in the reports about why they're being discreet?
Yeah.
Why not just announce a price cut?
That's a key question. Some analysts suggest, well, a public price cut could signal wider weakness in the natural diamond market.
Which might dampen consumer sentiment even more.
Potentially. So discrete discounts let them manage inventory without making such a broad, maybe negative statement.
What the risk?
The risk is, I suppose, that this lack of transparency could create uncertainty, maybe even mistrust among some buyers who aren't getting the deals.
Makes sense. Okay, so while the natural diamond market faces these pressures, the whole picture is complicated further by lab-grown diamonds, isn't it?
The LGD market?
There seems to be a growing consensus, reading these reports, that the global lab-grown market is at a real tipping point.
Yeah, tipping point is a phrase used. Reports suggest retailers are kind of reassessing their growth projections for LGDs.
You're assessing.
Yeah. It seems that way, or at least tempering expectations. And this is particularly relevant for India.
Because India's become such a powerhouse in lab-grown production.
Exactly, a major hub. So any fluctuations in global demand, they'll directly influence production and exports from places like Surat.
So this shift in retailer projections, why now? Is it just market saturation?
It might be linked to a better understanding of actual consumer demand, maybe a saturation point in certain LGD segments, yeah. Perhaps the initial exponential growth projections were a bit too optimistic.
Right, so if that initial hype is cooling a bit, that could have, well, significant repercussions for India's manufacturing base there.
It certainly could, requires careful navigation.
But then you look at the other end of the spectrum, the ultra-luxury market.
Ah, yes. Seems to be operating by completely different rules.
As highlighted by that recent auction, the Mediterranean Blue.
Absolutely. That sale in Geneva, $21.5 million.
Wow. For one diamond.
A rare one, mind you. 10.3 carat, fancy vivid blue. It even went on tour in Abu Dhabi before the auction.
21.5 million. It's almost hard to grasp. What is it about these truly exceptional stones that command such staggering prices, even when other parts of the market are, struggling?
Rarity is key. And quality, color, history. It all plays a part. These record-setting sales definitely generate buzz.
It keeps the dream alive?
In a way, they reinforce the perception of natural, rare diamonds as enduring assets, symbols of ultimate luxury.
And the significance for the broader market? Or is it just its own little world?
Well, for India, it certainly influences demand among high-net-worth individuals, luxury jewelers, too.
They'll be watching those sales closely.
Definitely. Looking at their own portfolios, the appetite of their clientele, these auctions can sometimes set trends, or at least provide a benchmark for the very, very top end.
It really is like two parallel universes sometimes. One grappling with supply chains and demand shifts.
And the other seemingly immune, driven by pure rarity and exclusivity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And building on India's role beyond just polishing, it's interesting to consider its future potential. There was that opinion piece.
Right, in the Times of India, suggesting India could regain dominance.
Exactly. That piece suggested India, with its history, once being a diamond monopoly,
Way back when.
has the potential to regain dominance in the modern era, but this time through LGDs and technology.
That's a bold claim. From ancient monopoly to modern comeback via lab-grown.
It is bold, but it does underscore India's strategic importance, doesn't it? Not just as the polishing capital, but now as this emerging lab-grown leader, too.
Are there challenges mentioned, though, or counter-arguments? Is it just optimism?
Oh, the piece acknowledges challenges. The need for continued investment, R&D, strategic marketing, building global consumer confidence in Indian LGDs specifically. It's not a given.
Understood. And technology itself is playing a huge role in shaping this future, too, isn't it? We're seeing platforms emerge.
Like Navoda.
Yes, that UK-based B2B marketplace, digitizing the supply chain.
Their focus seems to be on traceability and trust in B2B sourcing.
Which, historically, hasn't always been the industry's strong suit, perhaps.
Well, it's often relied on more traditional methods, handshakes, established relationships. Platforms like Navoda offer potential for greater efficiency, maybe more transparency.
So how might a platform like that impact, say, Indian exporters?
Well, As the global market gets more digitized, more focused on transparency, Indian exporters might face stiffer expectations.
Or on compliance, documentation.
Exactly. Quality documentation, proof of origin, that sort of thing, especially in B2B trade. These platforms can become key intermediaries, kind of setting new standards for how business gets done.
Meaning Indian businesses might need to adapt their processes, get more digital, more traceable.
Potentially, yes, to meet these new digital demands.
Okay, so let's try and recap this complex picture. We're seeing a fascinating interplay of factors.
Definitely.
Mine closures in key places like Sierra Leone, production declines in Canada, tightening the supply of natural roughs, geopolitical sanctions on Russia, adding another layer of complexity, shifting import patterns. Meanwhile, De Beers seems to be adjusting to softer demand with these strategic, quiet discounts.
Right. Managing inventory.
The lab-grown market is at this critical juncture, this tipping point, which has direct implications for India's huge manufacturing base there.
A very important point for India, yes.
And yet, at the very high end, those rare, exceptional natural stones, still commanding astronomical prices.
The luxury segment holds strong.
Plus, technology is evolving the very infrastructure of how diamonds are traded globally.
With platforms like Navoda aiming for more transparency.
It really highlights how interconnected this global market is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Events in one corner ripple outwards.
Absolutely. And directly affect places like India, which plays such a central role throughout the whole diamond pipeline, from rough to polished, natural to lab-grown.
This has been, well, a really insightful look beneath the surface. It does make you wonder, though. Given all these rapid changes, the rise of LGDs, the shifting geopolitics, the pressures on natural supply, how might that traditional allure, that perceived value of natural diamond, how might that evolve?
That's the big question hanging over the industry.
Especially against lab-grown alternatives and these shifting global forces. What does luxury even truly mean in this evolving landscape? Certainly something to ponder.
Indeed it is. This deep dive, it offers a snapshot, really, of a very dynamic industry. The forces we've discussed today, they will undoubtedly shape the future of diamonds. It's a story that definitely continues to unfold.